first service, I confessed that on our way back from Orlando, we decided to drive all night long. We stopped at Cracker Barrel for dinner. But I got full on my little fried fish thing, and so I brought the biscuits home, which was a good thing, because this morning our cupboard is bare. It is totally bare, and I was very grateful for the biscuits. But they just, stay right around there. This whole month of June, we've been talking about minding our mind, to paying attention to our thoughts, and why this is so important. We began by talking about that just blew my mind, and perhaps a more articulate, intelligent, and appropriate way to say that just blew my mind is to quote here, "A mind stretched by a new idea can never return to its original dimensions." That's attributed to both Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. and Ralph Waldo Emerson. So we looked at, wow, what if we think a more expansive thought? What if we think a bigger thought? Well, if we do, or even if we hear it at the grocery store, our mind cannot go back to its narrow thinking because we've been expanded. We added to that, "A trained mind is more powerful than an untrained mind" by Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was an early New Thought teacher. And we liked that, and we saw how that was supportive of our spiritual journey, because we recognize that as we focus on divine ideas of love, joy, peace, fulfillment, happiness, wholeness, divine health, then we actually manifest and demonstrate peace. We manifest and we demonstrate love. We manifest and we demonstrate a healthier body. We have what I call a rocking chair moment of joy. You know, in North Carolina, there's lots of rocking chairs, yes? Yes. Yes, so it's that rocking chair moment at the end of the day when you're sitting there going back and forth and you say to yourself, I've had a good day. It's that kind of joy that comes from focusing and training our mind to be in alignment with those divine ideas. And then 2 weeks ago, we ended with this statement: everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you can't help but get that reality. It can be no other way, and that's Albert Einstein. Not philosophy, it's physics, he said. But I say it's physics, it's philosophy, it's psychology, it's spirituality. When we keep our minds tuned in and tapped into that reality which we want, that's where we're going to manifest. That's where we're going to demonstrate. So I want to start with this whole idea of consciously holding our energy and our thoughts, matching the frequency of the reality that we want. Because if we don't mind the mind, or if we say, if you don't mind, you know the quote? If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. If we don't mind, it doesn't matter. Mark Twain is the one who first came up with it. He said, age is a matter of mind over matter, and if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And that was fine, and it probably would not have become so famous except Jack Benny picked it up. And Jack Benny had used it in all of his comedy routines. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Ah. But like all true comedy, it's rooted in reality. So if we don't mind, we're going to be creating willy-nilly. We're going to be creating perhaps from a few really amazing spiritual thoughts, but we're also going to be creating from what I call the unconscious consciousness. And that's personal to us, each one of us. But we also create from the unconscious collective unconsciousness. There's a great story. I don't know that it's true, but I don't know that it's not. What I know is that it's a great story. and parts of it are probably true. A group of scientists placed 5 monkeys in a cage, and in the middle, a ladder with bananas on the top. Every time the monkey went up the ladder, the scientists soaked the rest of the monkeys with cold water. After a while, every time a monkey went up the ladder, the others beat up the one on the ladder. And after some time, no monkey dared to go up on the ladder, regardless of the temptation. Regardless of how beautiful those bananas looked, the delicious aroma that was emanating from them, those monkeys would not go up the ladder. So then the scientists decided to substitute one of the monkey, and the first thing the new monkey did was try to go up the ladder, and the others pulled him off and beat him up. Now by this time, the scientists were not using the water treatment. They were just relying to see what was going to happen with the other monkeys. And eventually they swapped out each one of those monkeys so that the 5 monkeys that were in that room with the ladder and those delicious bananas never went up the ladder. They didn't know why they were doing what they were doing, but they were not going up that ladder because they didn't want to get beat up. So I like this middle and the bottom. It says, if it was possible to ask the monkeys why they would beat up all those who attempted to go up the ladder, I bet you the answer would be, I don't know. That's how things are done around here. Does that sound familiar? And this is the scariest part to me of all, because it does sound familiar. We as human beings are so much like those monkeys. We go, why are you doing that? I don't know. It's always been done that way. Why are you thinking it? I don't know. My mother did it that way, or my father did it that way, or my teachers in school did it that way. I don't know why I'm thinking what I'm thinking. That's the unconscious that is getting created. That's the unconsciousness that we're tuning into that is creating our reality. And then the question becomes, is that the energy that we want to be tuning into to create our reality again and again and again? It's called minding the mind. And I thank you for validating so many of you say, no, that's not what I want to do. So thank goodness that we're waking up. That we're waking up and we're becoming aware of these thoughts that we're holding in our unconscious minds. We're becoming aware of them. We're aware enough that we're in a unity community, a spiritual community together that's waking up, going, wow, look at those unconscious thoughts I've been holding and I don't want to hold them anymore. We're reading amazing spiritual wisdom from people like Yogananda and Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, because that's part of our waking up. We're looking at what we're thinking and we're going, holy cow, I can think this and I can manifest this. I can have more of those rocking chair moments of joy in my life. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, said the thinking faculty in humankind makes each person a free agent because it is our creative center. In and through this one power, we establish our consciousness. This is the good news about waking up. Charles Fillmore didn't make this up by himself. He actually reached all the way back to Plato. So it's ancient wisdom that he was on fire about. And we can be on fire about, because when we focus on that expanded consciousness, conscious thought, when we mind our mind, wow, our lives get more and more amazing every day. And then here's the other side about waking up. We begin to notice those thoughts that we're holding, that were unconscious before. And we say to ourselves, wow, that was in my consciousness. And we look and we say, I didn't recognize that I was so negative. I didn't recognize that I was having so many negative thoughts. And now I have to be responsible. I can't blame my ancestral roots for my life and the way my life is. I can't say I was marinated in anger and frustration and therefore I am anger and frustration. I can't say I was steeped with the knowledge it's going to come to me in just a second, steeped with the knowledge that, well, it was a good thought. I'm so glad that it's out of my consciousness. But we can't go back and blame our past. as we awaken, we take responsibility for our future. We take responsibility for our present moment and what thoughts we're putting in our mind in this present moment. Now, there are two questions that guide us to go either way in our spiritual awakening. One is this: what would I love to have happen here? What would I love to have happen in this moment? What would I love to create in this present moment? What energy and thought do I want to put into this present moment that would bring me to my full aliveness? Or we could ask this question: what happened? I wish I could understand why things are the way they are. And I want you to know that even spiritual gurus struggle with these two questions, and in some unconscious way, sometimes tend toward the latter. Michael Beckwith, who's the founder of Agape International Spiritual Center in Los Angeles, tells a story on himself. He tells the story about how he would drive the same way to work every day, and on a particular corner there was a homeless man. And so as he noticed this homeless man every day, he decided that he was going to bring the homeless man either a bottle of water or a sandwich, and then they began to have conversations. And what Michael got to realize is this homeless man was brilliant. He was smart, he was sharp, he was articulate. And Michael began to wonder, how could this happen? How could this sharp, smart, brilliant, articulate man be homeless and on a corner depending on people like me to bring him water? And he began to think that every time he drove by, every time he saw that. And then one day in the mail, Michael gets this big envelope. It's from the Internal Revenue Service. And included in that big envelope was a bill saying you owe thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in back taxes. And Michael looked at it and he said, this is how that homeless man got on that corner. He was smart, he was sharp, he was articulate, he was brilliant, and this is how it happened. So what is Michael thinking? I've just demonstrated how I can ask question number 2 and go down that rabbit hole and manifest an answer. Or I could ask question number 1. So just strike that second question right out of your mind. Because if you don't mind, spend time with your attitude, spend time with your consciousness, spend time focusing on marinating yourself in the possibility and the discovery and the wonder. I wonder what I would love to have happen right here. There's a story of a man named Jerry who was a restaurant manager, and he went from managing small restaurants to bigger restaurants. He was really successful, and not only did the clientele seem to follow him wherever he went, his employees followed him wherever he went. And at one point, one of his employees asked him, what is it? What is it that makes you have this attitude all the time? What is it that makes your response to when somebody says, how you doing? He says, if I were any better, I'd be twins. If I were any better, I'd be twins. So what is it that you do that you can maintain such an upbeat attitude? And Jerry responded, he said, every morning I wake up and I have 2 choices. I say to myself, you can choose to be in a good mood or you can choose to be in a bad mood. And I choose to be in a good mood. And then I say, when something bad happens, I have 2 choices. I can choose to be a victim to that circumstance, or I can choose to learn from it. And then I have 2 choices when something else happens. Every time somebody comes to me and complains, I can take their complaint on, or I could choose to share something that's positive. Life is all about choices. When you cut away the junk, every choice, every situation is a choice. You choose how people will affect your mood, your life. So it doesn't say you choose the people that you're in relationship with, which ultimately you do, if you want to stay in a relationship, but you choose how your mood affects that relationship. Well, several years went by, and then Jerry made a mistake one morning. He left the back door to the restaurant open as he was trying to get everything together, and 3 armed gunmen came in through that open door and demanded that Jerry open the safe and give them all the money. So now he's shaken up by it, and I think that's quite understandable. So he's kind of jittery, and his hand keeps slipping off the dial, and one of the armed robbers gets antsy, and he panics, and he shoots Jerry. And then Jerry's there lying in his own misery and his own blood. Well, it wasn't very long before Jerry was found and help came on the way, and 18 hours later of surgery, Jerry lived. His story was rather inspiring and made the local news, and a newspaper reporter said, I want to do an article on you. I want to know what it is, that makes you feel so happy all the time. And they have a picture of Jerry, and Jerry is smiling, and he's happy, and he looks upbeat, and the caption is, if I were any better, I'd be twins. If I were any better, I'd be twins. So then she interviews him and asks him some questions, and she begins with, Jerry, what was going on in your mind? And Jerry said, well, first of all, I was beating myself up for leaving that door open, for making a mistake. He said, but then I got shot, and I was laying there on the floor, and I recognized that I had two choices. I could live or I could die. And I chose to live. Now, when the paramedics arrived, they were very upbeat, and they were very happy and very encouraging. You're going to be fine. You're going to make it. He said, but when I got wheeled into that operating room, the faces of the doctors and the nurses told quite a different story. They were actually seeing me as a dead man. And what could they do to help me be comfortable? So in that operating room, there was also a big burly nurse who kept shouting questions because they were trying to get all the information they needed to get from Jerry. And one of the questions was, are you allergic to anything? And Jerry said yes, and the whole operating room stops and listens, and he says, I'm allergic to bullets. I'm allergic to bullets. And in their laughter, he then had the opening to say, please operate on me as if you were operating on somebody who was choosing to live, because I am choosing to live.
Wow.
What a powerful story of how every moment we have two choices. And choosing the attitude that we want to move forward in life. Choosing the attitude that we want to have. So what kind of attitude do you want to walk out of here today with?
Happy.
Happy. I choose an attitude of happiness. I choose an attitude of inspiration. I choose an attitude of joy. I choose an attitude of
Love.
love. Oh yeah, I like that one. I choose an attitude of gratitude. And I can see all of your faces, and let me tell you, if you were any happier, you'd be twins. If you were any better, you'd be twins. So why don't you turn to somebody and say, if you were any better, you'd be twins. If you were any better, you'd be twins. If you were any better, you'd be twins. And I think that's one small way where the God in me recognizes the God in you. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you, because that attitude of joy, of happiness, of enlightenment, of connection, of divine right order, that attitude opens our eyes to possibilities. Let's go into meditation by singing our Namaste song. The God in me salutes the God in you.